The latest on NASCAR driver Ryan Newman, the man at the wheel of the number 6 car, seriously injured in a major wreck to end Monday night's Daytona 500, we're told, remains in the hospital today. The encouraging news, of course, the injury is said to be non-life-threatening to the former Daytona 500 winner. Hey there, everybody. JB Biunno here with another update regarding Ryan Newman. Of course, our thoughts, our prayers, along with countless thoughts and prayers across the country are with Ryan Newman, his family, his team today. Again, the update just less than an hour ago from his team saying that he is remaining in the hospital here in Florida. We'll get to a statement here momentarily, but first, for those of you that were not watching the Daytona 500 last night, for those of you who have not seen this crash on social media, we have a little bit of a different view, a different perspective. Just to give you an idea of what it was like on the ground in pit road last night. We're going to be introducing Fox 8's Kevin Connolly here momentarily, the Fox 8 team that was there on pit road shooting this video as the final lap of the Daytona 500 came to a harrowing end. Bring in now Fox 8 Sports' Kevin Connolly joining us from Daytona Beach. Daytona coverage there is wrapping up, Kevin, but I'd like to thank you for taking some time out of your day here to join us. Just what was it like, the atmosphere? There was sort of a chill in that warm Daytona air last night with this crash, what had happened. You and I were talking. I think that as of right now, there's less concern on, of course, Denny Hamlin winning the 2020 Daytona 500. And, of course, all the concern right now, the focus is on Ryan Newman, his family, and Roush Fenway Racing.
Well, the thing, JB, is there was such a wide range of emotion in such a very short period of time. I mean, it was a thrilling conclusion, or it was headed towards a thrilling conclusion of the Daytona 500. You had so many cars up there in the lead pack. You had Ryan Newman, you had Ryan Blaney, you had Denny Hamlin. They were all battling for the win. Everybody was watching that intently. They knew it was going to be a very, very close finish. Then you had the accident, the spectacular crash. And anytime a NASCAR gets up in the air, you got to remember that these cars weigh 3,600 pounds, and it was flying around like it was a matchbox out there. So that's part of the emotion that I think everybody was feeling. I think in the video you could see that Denny Hamlin's team was celebrating, and they're getting criticized quite a bit for that today. But they were so focused on their driver and their view, I don't think they saw how significant the crash was, because Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney, they were 100, 200 yards ahead of the crash, so they were looking in that general direction. And I don't think, at that moment, everybody really knew exactly how significant the accident was. But when you see the video, I mean, it is crazy. It is truly a testament to how far NASCAR has come in their safety development over the years. But yeah, you could, the fans and the reaction, it was a full range of emotion. And they went from excitement, they went to just terror for those brief moments, as it took NASCAR several minutes to get Ryan Newman out of the car. But it was an amazing scene to be there and witness and be a part of.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the Facebook Live comment section, we know that we are engaging a large digital audience. Good Tuesday afternoon to you, everybody. Everyone, of course, asking about Ryan Newman's condition. The statement that came out yesterday, serious injuries but non-life-threatening. The update that came down less than an hour ago for all of you that want the very latest officially on Ryan Newman. I'm going to read here the statement from Roush Fenway president Steve Newmark. He released this on Twitter a short time ago, saying, on behalf of Roush Fenway Racing and Ryan Newman's family, we'd like to thank the NASCAR community for the incredible outpouring of support and compassion for Ryan. Your thoughts and prayers have comforted us all. Ryan remains at Halifax Medical Center, and we will provide further updates on his condition as they become available. So, Kevin, of course, no major update there, as you would expect. Of course, Newman remaining at the hospital. There was no expectation that, of course, him being in serious condition, those serious injuries that he sustained, that he was going to be getting out of the hospital or even being transported from Halifax anytime soon. But for those of you that did not get to see, it was a little bit late last night. You might have went to bed if you did not see the official press conference, the brief press conference by NASCAR. This is what they had to say last night, reading a statement on behalf of Newman and the team.
Thanks, Tom. I wanted to provide everybody an update on Ryan Newman. He's been transported to Halifax Medical Center, undergoing further treatment and evaluation. We've been in continual dialogue with the race team and Ryan's family, and on behalf of Roush Racing, they've asked us to read a statement to give you an update, and the statement reads as follows. Ryan Newman is being treated at Halifax Medical Center. He's in serious condition, but doctors have indicated his injuries are non-life-threatening. We appreciate your thoughts and prayers and ask that you respect the privacy of Ryan and his family during this time. We appreciate your patience and cooperation and will provide more information as it becomes available. That's the end of the statement. And then certainly on our behalf, we're going to continue to work with the race team and Ryan's family to support them in any way we can. We'd ask that you respect their privacy, and going forward, we'll provide updates as we can, but at this time, our thoughts are with Ryan and his family. Thank you.
So, of course, the entire NASCAR family, teams, drivers, fans, even non-NASCAR fans, saying prayers last night and into this morning, into today, for Ryan Newman and his family, of course, his wife, his two daughters. An extremely difficult time for the Newman family. Serious injuries, but non-life-threatening is the latest that we have specifically on his condition. He remains, of course, at Halifax Medical Center in Daytona Beach. Kevin, a lot of being made about just the response by NASCAR fans in general, whether you were at the track or you were watching at home. There was this interesting juxtaposition between Denny Hamlin winning a thrilling race, one of the closest races that we've seen, one of the closest finishes that we've seen in some time, and then, of course, the terrible crash involving Blaney and Newman being sent to the hospital, media members being told to keep their distance from the crash site, which, of course, as you and I both know, that is not good news when media members are being told to stay as far away from a crash site as humanly possible. Just maybe you can break down what it was like at the track. You were on pit road, but what it was like at the track, at the Speedway yesterday, the response. We heard some booing from NASCAR fans on the Fox broadcast. Maybe you can put into perspective what the atmosphere was like last night.
I think some of the boos were directed towards Denny Hamlin and the 11 team as they were celebrating the victory. I think there was a brief miscommunication between Denny Hamlin's spotter and his team. Nobody knew exactly the extent of the injury. And again, Denny Hamlin had just won the biggest race of the year. So, and in Victory Lane and in the news conference following the Champions news conference following the celebration in Victory Lane, Joe Gibbs was very quick, very quick. It was the first statement that he made. He wanted to apologize because at the moment when they won the race, that they just didn't know the severity of the accident and Ryan Newman's condition at that point. So Joe Gibbs, just a first-class individual, was very, very quick to apologize. Denny Hamlin did the same thing as well. But, NASCAR is a very, very tight-knit community. You got to think that they are it's a traveling circus, if you will. I mean, they go to 38 races a week, 38 race weekends a year. They travel all crisscrossing all over the country, and it's that same core group of people week in and week out. So they are a very, very close-knit community. So there was a tremendous amount of concern in that community. We're talking drivers, crew chiefs, crew members, members of the media that follow the circuit week in and week out. There was just a tremendous amount of concern for Ryan Newman at that point. And then NASCAR fans, they're very loyal. They are a very loyal fan base. And they're concerned. They understand. I think fans know what the dangers are. But when something like this happens, it does. It brings out that bigger raw emotion and concern.
President Trump, of course, tweeting out his support for Ryan Newman and Ryan Newman's family. This is a story that has, of course, gripped the country, gripped racing fans around the world. Another name that's on the tip of everyone's tongues today, it seems like, Kevin, of course, as you would expect, crash or no crash, is Dale Earnhardt. 19 years ago, lost his life on the final lap of the 2001 Daytona 500. That is a crash that is considered to be, of course, by NASCAR fans as a turning point in NASCAR history. Safety measures implemented in the year or so after Dale Earnhardt's passing. Just 19 years ago, Kevin. I mean, we're talking about Dale Earnhardt now. We're talking about Ryan Newman. Ryan Newman, of course, has been talking a lot, and as many NASCAR drivers have, about the safety measures have been put into place to ensure that tragedy does not strike the sport as much as it has in many, many years past. But perhaps you can put into perspective just the connection that we have now here between Dale Earnhardt, Ryan Newman, this last lap crash on the Daytona 500.
Yeah, the thing about Dale Earnhardt, he's got a legacy in many different facets. First, 7 championships, tied with Richard Petty, tied with Jimmy Johnson for the most championships in NASCAR history. He had a huge following and fan base throughout NASCAR. But one of his greatest legacies is the safety measures that have been implemented by NASCAR since Dale Earnhardt's tragic death 19 years ago. One of the big things that NASCAR has done, there's some of the safety measures that NASCAR has implemented over these 19 years, is full face helmets. All drivers are required to wear full face helmets. There are now head and neck restraint systems called Hans devices. Every single driver has to wear one of those. The other big safety improvement is the actual seat. It is a carbon fiber seat that is molded to the driver's body. There are also 2, headrests, almost 2 side panels where that limits the driver's movement inside the car from side to side. The actual cars themselves, they've increased the what they call crush panels. There's energy absorbing foam built all throughout the race car now in the sides, again, to take some of that energy away during some of those violent crashes. But the thing with Dale Earnhardt, that was shocking. I mean, he was the intimidator. He was Superman to many people in NASCAR racing. And if it happened to him, it could happen to anybody. But what NASCAR has done from that terrible tragedy is they have improved the sport. They have improved the safety in a lot of different ways. There's now soft walls at all of the tracks that also absorbs the energy in big violent crashes. You got to remember, I mean, they're going 200 or close to 200 miles an hour. So that energy has to go somewhere. And NASCAR they've spent a lot of money. The teams have spent a lot of money to improve safety over the last 19 years.
We've got a lot of people, of course, sending in prayers on Facebook Live. Of course, we're live on many pages, dozens of pages across the country right now. Facebook Live, Twitter, apps, websites, really across Nexstar Nation. We appreciate everybody tuning in for an update. Again, the update for Ryan Newman, of course, is that he remains in Halifax Medical Center in Daytona Beach for the terrible crash that you see here on your screen, everybody. I also want to get to a couple of Facebook Live commenters who were joining us. Sandra Paranet in the WFLA Facebook Live comment section saying that she'll never forget Dale Earnhardt. I think the moment, is what she's referring to, Kevin. I think a lot of people, of course, remember where they were that very moment when they found out that what seemingly didn't appear to be like the most serious crash at Daytona 500 turned out to be a fatal crash for the NASCAR legend. Teresa Bragg saying, sending prayers to Ryan Newman. No matter whose fault it was, he does not deserve to be hurt. Rhinda Waters saying prayers. Lavinia Owens saying prayers. Vicky Warwick saying prayers on the WFLA Facebook page. And then from your Facebook page, Fox 8 in Greensboro, Raymond Horton, I want to see him healthy and smiling. This breaks my heart. Roberta Jaspers, we are praying. And Idana Stern saying this was heart-wrenching to watch. We caught up with Ryan Newman on Media Day, everybody, this past Wednesday. This was him talking about the Daytona 500.
I remember so much about that evening in 2008, what was so special to me, and I don't remember any part of it that I wish I would have done differently. It just, you just live in that moment, and I would love to live in that moment again.
That, of course, was Newman referencing his Daytona 500 victory. Kevin, when we're talking about the expectations, the pressure that are on these drivers, we saw yesterday, for those of you who watched the Daytona 500 last night, that final stage, those final 70 laps, especially the latter half of those 70 laps, the final 35, I would say, is a pressure cooker. That's when these drivers are really starting to test the limits of the machines that they are in, really pushing the boundaries of what they can do on that stretch of roadway there in Daytona. When it comes to the pressure, the expectations, the sponsorships, the deals, the major money that comes into this, the pressure that's on these drivers in those last few laps, we saw the crashes happen. We saw this enter overtime. These drivers, whether you're Ryan Newman, Denny Hamlin, Jimmy Johnson, doesn't matter who you are, Eric Almirola, Joey Logano, doesn't matter who you are, you're facing immense pressure to perform. And that's, of course, what we're seeing here on that last lap. These three drivers, Blaney, Newman, and Hamlin, going for it. I mean, they are trying their very best to write their names into NASCAR history.
Well, winning the Daytona 500 has always been referred to as a life-changing victory. You are forever called, when you're introduced, no matter where it is, former Daytona 500 winner, so-and-so, three-time winner of the Daytona 500, Denny Hamlin, Cale Yarborough. Again, this is such a big race. It is such an important race in NASCAR. Winning it is so significant. It's one of those bucket list items for a driver. It's the type of event that he wants to have on his resume. There are many drivers who believe that if you don't have a 500 victory, your career is not complete. So that's part of their motivation. If they're getting very close to winning the Daytona 500, they're going to go for it. Now, each and every one of these drivers, they know the inherent risks every single time that they climb in those cars. And every once in a while, we haven't really had a major injury in the last few years. Think back to just a couple of years ago when Austin Dillon had a very similar spectacular crash in the summer race at Daytona. And he jumped out of didn't jump out of the car. He got out of the car and he thrust his hands up in celebration. And there was a huge ovation for Austin Dillon just a couple of years ago after a spectacular crash. We sort of maybe get lulled into a false sense of security that NASCAR is a safe sport. It's as safe as it possibly can be, but there are certainly some inherent risks. And now I can't speak to whether sponsors put pressure on drivers to perform any differently in the Daytona 500, but winning the Daytona 500 is life-changing for a driver and their team, and in a connection to that, the sponsors as well.
Again, for those of you just joining us, we are constantly engaging a new digital audience really every second of every minute here. For those of you just joining us, the update from Rouse Fenway president Steve Newmark. He said on Twitter that Ryan remains at Halifax Medical Center, and we will provide further updates on his condition as they become available. And then, of course, the previous statement saying that Ryan was suffering from serious but non-life-threatening injuries. So that's the latest that we have on Ryan Newman. For those of you asking what serious injuries but non-life-threatening injuries could look like, we're talking about perhaps broken bones. We're talking about major contusions. We aren't going to speculate, but there have been a lot of people, Kevin, who have been asking serious but non-life-threatening. That's, it seems to be an oxymoron of sorts, but you can be seriously injured, of course, in a crash and not have your life being threatened, not be in a critical stage where you might be losing your life. So there was, of course, this sigh of relief. You would never want to say a sigh of relief when somebody is injured so terribly in such a horrific crash, but there was a collective sigh of relief amongst NASCAR fans across the country last night when hearing that these injuries were non-life-threatening. Without that tagline there at the end, this is, of course, a very different story, and we're wondering if Ryan Newman is fighting for his life at the hospital. So very, very relieved NASCAR Nation was to hear that Ryan Newman, of course, is expected to survive, expected to recover. What kind of a recovery remains to be seen. Kevin, there were a lot of people in the Facebook Live comment section asking if any other drivers were hurt last night. Of course, a name that pops up here, I've seen it pop up here a couple of times, is Corey LaJoie. Corey LaJoie in that second impact collision with the number 6 car, with Newman as he was airborne. Any updates on any other drivers, if they sustained any injuries last night in Daytona?
No other driver was injured. Corey LaJoie was, out of his car. He was taken to the infield care center. He was released from the infield care center. He returned home to Charlotte. In fact, he was on a national network news show this morning talking about the accident. Corey LaJoie is just fine. I would like to point out Ryan Blaney in all of this. He finished second. After the race, he was visibly shaken because of the incident. Now there's no blame. It's not his fault. That is part of racing on a super speedway at Daytona. But you could certainly see the concern in his face and in his voice. He's still a young guy. You could hear his voice quiver a little bit when he was talking about and explaining the accident from his point of view. And again, I think that goes back to proving and showing that that these guys are competitors on the track, but they're friends off the track, and it is a very tight-knit and close community.
I believe it was Blaney saying there, Kevin, that he was trying to give the Ford a push, that push to NASCAR glory, to a Daytona 500 win over Hamlin. This is commonplace when it comes to, if you don't have the run that's going to win the race, you would much rather get the driver that you want to see win it into position to actually claim the checkered flag.
Well, that's an element of drafting at the super speedway races. 2 cars traveling together is faster than 1 car. That's just the way the draft works. They push each other through the air, and bump drafting and pushing is a part of super speedway racing at Daytona and Talladega. So yeah, he was pushing them. That's just the style of racing that we have, at the super speedways. And he hit him, and it turned Newman's car a little bit, and it shot right up into the wall.
Yeah, Christopher Cole among those on the WFLA Facebook page saying all these comments about pushing, they don't know racing because it's bump drafting. That's the comment, just echoing what Kevin Connolly is saying here. Kevin Connolly joining us here from Fox 8 Sports. Chris Buescher was another driver that was interviewed. There was a little bit of a chill in his voice as well, Kevin, last night on the Fox broadcast. Just that look of disbelief after what they had just witnessed with this terrible crash, hoping that their fellow racer in Ryan Newman was doing okay at that time and was going to be okay. How does this impact NASCAR ahead of Vegas, ahead of driving out there to Nevada, the next stop, of course? When we're talking about how this carries over, this lingers, this hangover over the sport, what kind of an impact is it going to have in Vegas?
The super speedways of Daytona and Talladega are their own entities. There's no other racing like that. And drivers have an incredible ability to compartmentalize. They have a job to do, and they go out and do the job. So I don't think that there'll be a great hangover moving forward, because accidents and, it's been a part of NASCAR since day one, since 1949 when NASCAR was created. That's just a part of it. So I really don't think that there'll be a hangover. NASCAR took all Corey LaJoie's car and Ryan Newman's car back to the Research and Development Center in Charlotte. They will go over those 2 cars with fine-tooth combs. They also have data recorders on each of the cars, so they will take that data in, they will analyze that data, and they will try to figure out exactly how the safety measures in the car performed, and they will take that information and try to make any changes moving forward to the cars, to the driver's compartment area to keep the driver safe. But in terms of the competitors out there, I don't think that there'll be any hangover. Again, they know the risks involved, and every single time they get in a car, whether it's at Daytona or Las Vegas or whatever track it is.
I want to read some more Facebook Live comments here. Harry Spencer saying there's nobody to blame. It's racing. It happens at 200 miles per hour. It is split seconds. David Meters saying it was an accident. They know that this stuff can happen. These are from Facebook Live, everybody, for those of you commenting along here with us. Michael Blanchard, bumping is racing. Kim McHugh, thank you for the update, praying for Ryan Newman. And then Dave Lacey, anything can happen in NASCAR racing. One more time for those of you joining us here at the tail end of our stream here, everybody. It was Roush Fenway President Steve Newmark saying on Twitter that Ryan remains at Halifax Medical Center, and we will be providing further updates on his condition as they become available. They also went on to just thank the incredible outpouring of support and compassion that's been coming from across the sports world, even from the president, who, of course, tweeted in support of Ryan Newman and his family. So we will be continuing to provide you with updates before Kevin Connolly makes the drive back to the Carolinas. Kevin, for Fox 8 Sports, first of all, we thank you so much. Your final thoughts there before you depart Daytona.
You know, by and large, it was a really fantastic speed weeks here at Daytona. You know, there's a tremendous amount of energy for NASCAR for the upcoming 2020 season. I really hope that this accident doesn't have any sort of negative impact on the season. There are a lot of great storylines moving forward. And by and large, I truly believe that 2020 will be a great season overall for NASCAR.
The Countdown to Daytona franchise, everybody. It is part of our collective effort. Television stations across the country being part of our special streaming coverage on your phones, on your tablets, on your laptops to make sure that you are up to date with everything going on when it comes to NASCAR racing. Of course, this is not the type of broadcast that we like to do. We like to be talking about the good parts of racing and less about the tragic parts of racing, but we appreciate all of you joining us. Whatever app, website, social media platform that you're watching on for whatever respective television station that you are watching on, be sure to stay with that TV station's website or app for the very latest on the condition of Ryan Newman. We will be keeping you posted as we learn more from Halifax Medical Center in Daytona Beach. So for Next Star Nation, for Kevin Connolly, I'm JB Biunno. Thanks so much for being with us. Prayers to Ryan Newman, his family, his team. Kevin, a safe drive to you back to Greensboro. We appreciate you joining us. And everybody out there joining us on wherever you're watching from, thank you for being with us, everybody. Have a good rest of your Tuesday.